Welcoming into the studio, State Representative Scott McKnight, who is also candidate for Treasurer. Scott McKnight. Scott, what's happening, brother?
Oh, not a whole lot, Brian. You doing all right?
Not a whole lot. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking.
Well, look, if I start going down the list, do you really want to hear?
We're about to go down the list. I mean, we get like 8 things to cover here in 14 minutes, so let's roll.
Sure.
Well, let's start off with the campaign.
Yep.
You announced very early you were running for treasurer.
I did.
Do you regret announcing that early?
No, not at all.
That's going to put you on everybody's radar first. You become the first target.
That's fine. You know what? I know exactly what I wanted, and I wasn't waiting around to see, what everybody else, where everybody else was. I know where I want to head, and so it was easy for me to make the decision to announce early. I had a great idea of what was our current treasurer was going to end up doing, so I wasn't real concerned about what his path was. I think we all kind of had a good idea that was going to happen.
Yes, we did, which is why I'd never even bothered to ask you the question.
That's right.
It's probably easier to answer it in hindsight.
That's right.
If John Schroeder had run for re-election, would you still be in the treasurer's race?
You know, that's I got asked that question because when John Kennedy was looking at the governor's race, what would happen?
Yep.
You know what? Those are decisions that you can't make until everything falls in place. That
Right.
I can't. And my exact statement at the time was, I don't make decisions based off of what other people may or may not do. It's all about what I think the race is going to look like and how my success is. So,
fair enough. By the way, but think about it. Kennedy was treasurer before Schroeder.
that's exactly right.
That's just a long list of dudes handling the money.
That's right. Well, the Treasury is not very, the Treasurer's office, a lot of people don't really pay a lot of attention to it.
Right.
Because the number of people that interact with it on a daily basis is fairly limited, but it's an extremely important position in what we do, and handling the state's, the taxpayers' money, and making sure it's directed in the right places and invested correctly in the meantime.
What are your goals for the job? Where do you want to take that off? I mean, because Treasurer Kennedy introduced us. I mean, it was there before, but he basically introduced us to the unclaimed property program.
That's right.
Treasurer Schroeder made it his life's mission to make sure that everybody who has money gets their money back. Where do you want to take the office?
Look, starting with the unclaimed property pieces, we've got to continue to get that money back into the citizens' hands, the people that money's owed to, and trying to find more ways to get that money back in their hands. I think that we can continue to develop the program, better ways for people to search or find those people. And I'm discussing a few ideas with some of my colleagues. I think you will probably see a bill or two that will address some new avenues to get that money back in people's hands this session. On top of that, look, both Senator Kennedy, then treasurer, and now Treasurer Schroeder have done a great job in efficiency of the office. Treasurer Schroeder has done a great job with improving how we administer some of these federal funds that have come in, lowering the administrative cost while he's got it, getting the money back out in the hands, kind of the Main Street program. And so continuing to look at the efficiencies within the office to cut down these administrative type of fees while we have this money to give out, and just making sure that we're getting the return on the money that we have while the Treasury has it in its hands. We have a short period of time from the time money comes in to where it's redirected according to the legislative budget.
Right.
But what do we do with it in the meantime, and making sure we have the right amount of cash on hand and then getting a return on the money that we can invest.
One of the other things that Treasurer Schroeder has done with his time in office is to shine a light on environmental social governance, ESG, as it were. Is that in your plans as well, to continue to shine that light and pick up that torch?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, ESG is a relatively very new term. It's loosely defined to what it really means.
Yeah.
And Treasurer Schroeder really has brought it to light and what's going on in relation to how it impacts the industries that are a large part of our economy in Louisiana.
Yeah.
Really the part of the ESG as well, though, is we've got to make sure that we're getting the return on our money. So is how those particular funds perform, I think, is kind of what we're looking at. Like, are you making more or less money in ESG funds or not? So the non-ESG funds, whether they perform better or not as well. So I think while we have to pay attention to ESG and how it impacts our local economy, we also have to make sure we're getting the best return on our money.
Well, because the way Treasurer Schroeder, and I'll completely paraphrase, these are not his words.
Sure.
It's basically throwing an elbow saying, do business with our state, don't do business with our state, but you're not going to tell us how we do business within our state.
That's correct. And that's exactly right. I mean, again, these funds are targeting the industries that most of our citizens rely on every day, whether they're directly employed by the industries that they're targeting, or they are using products that come from these industries. So it's a big topic that we are going to continue to discuss and shine a light on for sure.
State Representative Scott McKnight, our guest, running for treasurer. So let's talk a little bit about the campaign trail. What are you hearing out there?
So far, all good things. I've had the opportunity to go around the state. Been over the last few months, hit North Shore, Lake Charles, Lafayette, all the way up Ruston, Monroe, Shreveport, Alexandria. So I've been getting around, putting some miles on my tires. About time for a new set already. But it's been great. Nothing but great feedback, and looking forward to getting to more places and meeting more people.
You talked earlier about how, the office of the treasurer, it's not going to be the headline grabber that often. So do you find it difficult to engage in conversation about what people want? Like if somebody's running for governor or somebody's running for representative, I know what I want to ask them before I step into that town hall meeting, before I hop on that Facebook Live. I already know the questions I want and where I would like to see my district or my state headed. Is it different for Treasury? Like, are people coming prepared?
Yeah, it's different in every place. And yes, some people walk in prepared because they have a direct relationship with the treasurer's office for one reason or another. They either go in front of bond commission or they've had an interaction with the unclaimed property. So they've had those interactions. So yeah, they have particular questions. But then there's a lot of people that walk in that don't, but are just interested in what's going on.
Right.
And so having the opportunity to kind of talk through the office a little bit with those people and tell them what all is involved has really been great. And then when I follow up with people in the week or two after, they have gone and done a little research and come back and ask more questions. So it's very interesting and varying on where people want to go with those conversations.
See, that to me sounds reassuring. That level of sparking interest in the civic process altogether.
Sure, yeah, and look, that's something that needs to happen across all spectrums, right?
Oh,
we need a lot more informed voters showing up at the booths and pressing the button for somebody that they know why they're voting for that person versus just walking in and following some type of script that they've read or
the letter behind the name.
That's exactly right.
We're talking with Scott McKnight. Okay, well, let's shift from the campaign towards what went down last week. Special session on insurance. One item on the call, and it
very
passed.
limited.
$45 million being fed into a fund that will help grease a couple companies to get people off of Citizens.
Theoretically, that's what it was sold as, at least. Look, I've been in the insurance business for 24 years. Mm-hmm. I'm in an independent agency, and so we interact with customers on a daily basis dealing with this exact topic. And yes, we are in a difficult place. The world is in a difficult place right now with reinsurance market. Yeah. And that is dictating a lot of our issues here, but globally as well. So what we did with this $45 million, I agree that it is some type of a step in solving some of an issue, mm-hmm. but I don't agree with the manner and how fast it was told that we needed to do it. To call a special session in, I don't think was the path. And I say that because if we're trying to depopulate Citizens, theoretically before our reinsurance renewal in June.
Right.
Okay, so let's walk the timeline down. We approved this money to go into the fund. Mm-hmm. DOI has to come up with the application to fill out, and they have to accept applications from any interested companies. They have to review them, decide who's getting what money. Those companies have to make sure they're licensed in the state of Louisiana, and then those companies must go get contracts with agents to sell their product. Okay?
Right.
So let's say that they do this faster than they've ever done it before, and it gives us to April 1st.
Okay.
April 1st renewals are already done in March. So you're now looking at May renewals, mm-hmm. potentially in April.
Okay. That's
1 month of renewals before we get to June reinsurance renewal. And if you take the commissioner's averages, that there's 120,000 policies and Citizens
Yeah.
that on average renew 10,000 per month. You're only getting a shot at 10,000 Citizens policies prior to our June reinsurance renewal.
But the commissioner is claiming we could depopulate Citizens by 40,000.
And I would ask that, where did he get that number from? And his answer is, that's what happened after Katrina and Rita.
Okay, but we had different timelines then.
Different timelines, and we had a different reinsurance and economic market at the time. We weren't running into the reinsurance markets that we have today at that time. So there was added complications in this process that are not going to line up perfectly like they did after Katrina and Rita.
Okay, even with that, though, and even if the number's as low as 10,000, and Scott McKnight is our guest, we're talking about the insurance session that just ended. Even with all that, a special session that ends on February 3rd would be able to serve more people before June than a regular session that begins on April 10th, would it not?
I mean, obviously it would, but the question is what's the impact? We just spent $200,000 roughly to have a special session, maybe a little less than that since we ended early. But we spent that money to go do something that is not going to have the ultimate impact that was told to us while we were here at this time. And so, look, I agree. If you're giving people money or companies money to come in here and incentivize them to come write policies, it will ultimately assist. But I also think that just the insurance markets will do that over time anyway. Yeah. Will it speed a few up? Yes, it will ultimately help. And look, any help that is out there to help some people that are having to go to Citizens, high insurance rates, yes, we want to help those people. But I don't know that the timeline that was put out was really fully explained and discussed, and are we really accomplishing the goal that we went in there for?
State Representative Jack McFarland suggested, I had him on while we were up in Washington for Washington Mardi Gras. He talked about the fortification program, and at the time I was like, I don't know if North Louisiana is going to be on board with that. It didn't even occur to me. You're sitting with a guy who's from North Louisiana who's suggesting it. What would have had to go into fortification being a part of the session?
Yeah, well, the call didn't allow it. You know, it just didn't. We could not appropriate money for that program because the call for the special didn't include that in the description.
Will it come back up in the regular session?
Absolutely.
And with the amount of one-time dollars we have to spend, is there room to get that done?
I think that from the talk, from what Representative McFarland went to the mic and had a huge conversation about fortified program because he wanted to put that amendment on the bill to move any used funds into that fund, the fortification fund, which was a great idea. It just wasn't allowed. But look, I think that everybody would benefit from that. If you do the fortification program, I do think you have to also look at long-term building codes in order to match up with it.
Absolutely. You can't fortify homes and then have the next developer come in with non-fortified homes.
Exactly. You're going to create problems long term, and we can't continue to think that we're going to be able to throw money at helping people fortify their homes if we're not saying new construction has to do it when they're built.
Right.
So when you combine that, it is going to drive insurance markets in a better place. You're going to have fewer losses during these hurricanes, which is going to allow the insurance companies to be more competitive with each other over time, and it will drive down the rates for everybody in the state, not just the people on the coast.
We've got State Representative running for Treasurer, Scott McKnight. I wanted to talk about the upcoming regular session. We're going to run out of time, so we got to get you back in very short order. So let me wrap up with less than 60 seconds ago. Let me ask this question. It was also suggested that instead of enticing new business to Louisiana, why don't we double down on businesses or insurance companies that are already doing business here, saying, here's the same amount of dollars, go do more?
No, I don't know what the response from the companies would have been or was if they were asked for that. Yeah. I would say that incentivizing companies that are here currently, like personally, I have AIG as my homeowners. They're leaving the state.
Right.
And so could we have gone to an AIG and said, hey, we've got this money. Can we keep you here? Yeah, I think that's a great approach because they're already doing it. But I don't know what the response was. I'm sure that was discussed. I would hope that was discussed, and that's a question for Commissioner Donilon and his staff.
He is State Representative Scott McKnight. We'll get to the regular session next time. We'll have you back on before April, I'm sure.
Look, I'd love to come back.
Love having you on. He is Scott McKnight. Always appreciate the time. We're due up for a break. We're going to check our news, our national news, local news, traffic, weather. When we come back, Ryan Gresham slated to join us. Got a new facility opening up. Let's talk about the Second Amendment and protecting your home next on Talk 107.3.